The first video for today is going to go over some common mistakes that showed up in your 2C quiz, and I wish that I could be there to go over this with you in person, but I'm going to try to go pretty slow so that you don't have to pause and write things down. You should be writing notes in your notebook on the page where you've taped your your 2C quiz. Also, if you got a 4 on a question, go ahead and fast forward through to the next question that you didn't get a 4 on. So we're going to start with question number 5, which is actually the first question, and that's what it looks like. It's a mapping with a whole bunch of arrows on it, and part A asks you for ordered pairs. Well, ordered pairs have parentheses and commas, so you just take each arrow and write them as an ordered pair. So the first one is 1, 1, 2, 0, 3, 1, 4, 0, 5, 1, and 6, 0. You have to have parentheses and commas. Okay. Part 2 of that question says, is it a function? So you know it's a function if each of the numbers on the left side, or the x values, have only one arrow going from it. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only one arrow coming from each of those. Therefore, yes, this is a function because each x value has only one y value. So you got points on this one by doing your ordered pairs correctly, saying yes, it was a function, and then explaining to me what a function is and why this qualifies as a function. Part B on the mapping asks for the domain and range. Well, the left side is the domain and the right side is the range. So whenever you write out the domain, you have to use brackets and then list the numbers. And then you do the same thing for the range, and you only write 0 and 1 once. You don't write it the number of times an arrow is pointed to it. So that's what I was looking for on that one. If you didn't put the brackets, you got a 3, which is just a minor mistake, but completely understandable. So that's why it didn't hurt you too much. Okay, number 6 gave you a story and a table. And you had to first list the ticket amounts for each day. Okay, and then in the story it says that it's $8 per ticket. So you have to take your ticket number and multiply it by 8. Now when you do that, you have to show in that dollars column that you are saying 8 times 30 equals 240. And you have to do 8 times 27 equals 216. 8 times 18 equals 144. 8 times 6 equals 48. 8 times 41 equals 328. And then if you did this, but you didn't actually show the calculations to get there, some of these numbers are difficult, and I would expect you to write it down on paper and not do this in your head. So you would get a lower score if you didn't actually show out the calculations for how to get those numbers. But if you didn't write the 8 times 30, 8 times 27, 8 times 18, those numbers, then you got a 3 out of 4. Then it asks you to write an equation. So first you have to define your variables. Well, x equals the number of tickets, and y equals the profit in dollars. And you could have chosen any letter you wanted, T, D, T, P, S, all kinds of variables here. But you have to tell me what the variables represent before you write your equation. And it does ask you to write an equation, which means that you have to have an equal sign. So you have y equals 8x. Some of you wrote 8 times x or x times 8. Make sure that you're writing your coefficient in front of your variable and you're not writing your operation. It's understood that it's being multiplied when it is written as 8x, and that's something that you guys should get used to doing frequently. So that was number 6. Number 7 is talking about Janet's printing and then printing press. And right now I'm just writing down all the different pieces of information that's in the question. So Janet's is 25 cents per page with a $35 setup fee, and printing press is 18 cents per page with a $50 setup fee, and we want to know specifically for 200 pages. The answer would not be the same if it was for 0 pages or 100 pages or 300 pages. The fact that it's 200 pages matters. The first thing is, if you do not know that 25 cents per page means that you multiply 25 cents by 200, you're kind of at a loss here. That's your first step. So we're going to start by saying 25 times 200 plus the $35 setup fee. You were not allowed to use calculators on this test because the math is not too terribly difficult if you have some really good number sense strategies. For instance, I think of 25 cents as 25% or 1/4. So I'm going to say 1/4 of 200 plus 35. Well, half of 200 would be 100, and then 1/4 of 200 would be 50. So that's 50 plus 35, which equals $85 for Janet's. Then we're going to do the same thing with printing press, except we're going to use 18 cents per page and the $50 setup fee. And this time I think of 18 cents as 18%, and I break it into smaller pieces that are more manageable for me, which would be 10%, 5%, and 3%. 10% is really a good strategy that you should have because you just move that decimal over. So for 10% of 200, it's 20. And then the 5% would be half of that, and your 3%, I think of the 1% as 2. So you get the 20 plus half of that is 10, and then if 1% of 200 is 2, and I have 3%, then I have 2 times 3, so that's 6. And I add that 50 on top of it, and I get a total of 86. So again, calculators weren't really necessary on this question if you've got that number sense down. You also needed to write a sentence. Janet's print shop is the better buy when purchasing 200 pages because $85 is cheaper than $86. Whenever I was scoring you, I was looking for all the work that's in blue and purple above, and then I was looking for the correct answer of Janet's print shop. I was looking for the fact that it mattered, it was 200 pages. And I was also looking for the $85 is cheaper than $86. You had to have all of that. And then kind of based on in your work how you got it wrong, that determined your score if you were just completely, incorrect. Okay, so the next one, number 8. Y equals x cubed, and it wanted you to kind of describe this equation and tell if it's a function or not. So just using my nonlinear notes that you took for homework, and this is nothing that we covered in class. I mean, we did cover it in class, but this was all also covered on the notes that you had when you were taking the test. So you could have used that foldable that you did whenever you did your homework. So the first thing I noticed is that this is a nonlinear function, meaning that it is curved, but it is still a function. The next thing I notice is that it's a cubic function because of the exponent of 3, and that means it's still a function. I also know that x cubed, that equation, makes a graph that looks kind of like a snake. Okay? So all of that plays into my answer. And I'm looking for a complete sentence. So something like the equation y equals x cubed is a cubic function. It is a function because each member of the domain is paired with only one member of the range. The equation forms a snake-like shape when graphed. So this is the green is what I'm really looking for as your answer. And I'm looking for cubic function. I'm looking for the definition of a function, which was in your notebook. I'm looking for the fact that it is a function. I had a lot of you say, it's a nonlinear function, therefore it's not a function. Nonlinear and linear is one classification, while function and not a function is a different classification. They're not the same thing. Okay? This is nonlinear because it curves. It's a function even if it's nonlinear. That's okay. And so the fourth thing I was looking for in this answer was something about the snake-like shape. The ninth question will ask you to solve an equation, and I'm going to show some of you tried to do this with pictures and did not do it correctly, while others did it correctly. And then others moved on to not using pictures, which is fine as long as you can do so without making common mistakes. So I'm going to show it both ways. And I'll apologize when I was making this out. There's some typos in there, but I think I caught them all. So the first thing is to draw your 1/3 x plus 4 equals 11, and then get rid of that plus 4 by adding the negative 4 on both sides. So that's what that looks like in the picture. And then in your regular equation, you would subtract 4 on both sides, and you get x divided by 3 equals 7. The next step is I've got 1/3 x, and I need a whole x. So I'm going to add another 1/3 x. When I do that, I have to add 7 to the other side. Now I have 2/3 x, so I'm going to add another third for my whole, and I get another 7. Well, on my other side of my other type of solving the equation, I just write that as multiplying both sides by 3. When I multiply both sides by 3, I get x equals 21, and that shows up on my picture. I've got 21 squares. So x equals 21 is my final answer. The best thing that you can do to make sure that you get this correct is to check your work. So you substitute 21 into your x place, and then you solve it out. 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 7 plus 4 equals 11. So it works. Okay? You're making some very basic mistakes that we just need to kind of clarify. So make sure you truly understand, because this is not leaving in the exam. You're going to have this on a test in the future many, many times. Okay? Number 10, this is something that's been on almost every single test that we've had since the beginning. 2x cubed times 5x times x to the negative second. A lot of you tried to expand this out, but when you expand it out, make sure that you have 2 times x cubed. That cubed does not go with the 2. Just like the 1 on that x, we're forgetting that if there's not an exponent, it's an understood 1. So you need to be putting that. Okay? And so that's how you could expand it out. And then you take 2 times 5 and multiply them together. This is a multiplication problem, not addition, not subtraction, not division, but multiplication. So 2 times 5 is 10. And then you take all of your exponents and you add them together. So you have x, don't lose that variable. Some of you did that as well. You have x to the third plus 1 minus 2. The 10 stays, and then the x stays. We got to figure out what that exponent is. Well, 3 plus 1 equals 4, and 4 minus 2 equals 2. So the exponent is 2. You get 10x squared. Again, you'll be seeing this on many more tests throughout the year. So learn how to do it, because it should be a good way for you to boost your test score up. Number 11 has a number in scientific notation that is asked to be turned into a standard notation number. A lot of you did excellent with this. You did 5.43 times 100. So 10 squared is 100, 10 times 10. Okay. You could do that, or you could just move that decimal 2 places over and get 543. That's really what I want to see. I want to see that decimal movement, and you realizing that that exponent tells you to move the decimal that way. Okay. Again, remember how to do this so that you can boost your score up. And the last question was a division question with a scientific notation. And you should know that if it's given to you in scientific notation, I want you to solve it using scientific notation, meaning you are not to convert this to standard notation or expand it out. you are to use your exponent laws to make this an easier process. Most of you did an excellent job with the first step of drawing that line and splitting them up, but I don't think that you really remember what that means. We have 2.4 divided by 1.2 times 10 to the 5th divided by 10 cubed. This is a division problem. It is not a subtraction problem. So 2.4 divided by 1.2 is equal to 2. Okay? And then you subtract the exponents. You do not subtract the coefficients. Okay? So we have 10 to the 5th minus 3. We get 2 times 10 squared, and that's our answer. We keep it in scientific notation because that's how it was given to us. Hopefully you are writing down how to solve each problem that you did not get a 4 out of 4 on. And remember, I grade your notebooks, so if you did not write this down and do this assignment correctly, you need to go back and start the video over again and get it done. So you have the rest of class to work on homework for this week and taking notes while you watch those videos so that we can move on and learn about slope when I return tomorrow. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.